Every morning, millions of seniors repeat small habits that seem harmless, yet silently erode their strength, balance, and independence over time. What feels routine can, without warning, lead to devastating consequences. It's not about dramatic accidents, it's the quiet mistakes made in the very first minutes of waking that decide whether we age with vitality or vulnerability. Today, you'll discover the 5 most dangerous morning mistakes that most seniors make without even realizing it, and more importantly, how simple changes can protect your future. Stay with me until the end, because the final mistake we'll uncover is the most dangerous of all, and almost no one talks about it. There is a fragile, unseen thread that connects the world of dreams to the world of movement, and every morning, we walk it without even realizing. For most, waking up feels like an automatic act. Open your eyes, swing your legs over the bed, and stand up. But for seniors, what seems like a simple habit can quietly become the most dangerous moment of the day. I remember the early morning when I received a call about Mrs. Eleanor, a spirited 74-year-old woman who had always taken pride in her health. She had no serious illnesses, stayed active, and was full of life. That morning, like countless mornings before, she awoke and immediately rose from her bed without thinking twice. Within seconds, she stumbled, collapsed, and lost consciousness. Her blood pressure had plummeted so suddenly that there was no time to react. She survived, but the months of recovery that followed stole from her much more than just time. They took a piece of her confidence, her independence, and her ease with daily life. Stories like Mrs. Eleanor's are not rare. In fact, they happen silently in bedrooms all over the world, every single day. The body, during sleep, is in a profound state of rest. Blood pressure naturally dips, heart rate slows, and muscles remain deeply relaxed. Circulation to the brain and extremities reduces to conserve energy. When we abruptly sit up and stand, we demand an immediate adjustment that the body, especially after the age of 60, struggles to deliver. Blood, still pooled in the lower parts of the body, is slow to reach the brain. This sudden imbalance leads to a phenomenon known as orthostatic hypotension, a sharp drop in blood pressure that triggers dizziness, blurred vision, weakness, and often dangerous falls. Many of my patients are startled when I explain this. They assume danger announces itself with sirens and pain. But aging doesn't work that way. Aging is a process of silent accumulation. One rushed morning. One dizzy stumble. One misstep. Over the years, these small, unnoticed moments chisel away at balance, bone strength, and stability, until the day when a simple act like getting out of bed can change everything. Centuries ago, Buddhist monks, though without the knowledge of modern physiology, instinctively understood this fragility. To them, waking was sacred. They taught that the body must be called back to the world gently, in stages, not torn from sleep but invited back with care. Before rising, they would wiggle their fingers and toes, breathe deeply, rotate their ankles and wrists, slowly roll onto their sides, and only then sit up slowly and consciously. What they practiced as spiritual wisdom, we now recognize as biological necessity. Modern studies affirm what ancient monks knew by intuition. Allowing the body a few quiet moments to reawaken circulation, stabilize blood flow, and reconnect the brain to movement reduces the risk of falls and injuries dramatically. It is a shield we build with just 2 minutes of respect, a shield that can mean the difference between a morning begun with strength or a morning ended in tragedy. I often tell my patients, give your body 120 seconds of patience every morning, and it might give you 10 more years of freedom in return. If you want to protect your vitality, you must honor the fragility hidden beneath the surface. When you first open your eyes, resist the impulse to rush. Take a deep, slow breath. Gently move your fingers and toes. Roll onto your side before sitting up. Sit on the edge of the bed and let your feet touch the ground. Wait, breathe again, stretch your shoulders lightly, feel the blood flow awakening inside you. Only when you feel steady should you stand. This ritual, this offering of patience, takes less time than making a cup of coffee. And yet it protects something far more precious than any caffeine rush: your independence, your safety, your peace. We assume that what we cannot see cannot hurt us. But silent dangers are often the most deadly. Aging gracefully is not about defeating time. It is about respecting the quiet shifts time demands. Imagine starting every day not by throwing yourself into movement, but by honoring your body's need to reconnect with life gently. Imagine how many falls, how much pain, how much fear could be prevented if we simply gave ourselves the permission to wake slowly. Now, if rushing your body awake is like stepping into a hidden trap, imagine the even greater threat waiting when your inner rivers, the blood and fluids your organs depend on, have quietly dried overnight without your noticing. In the next part, we will explore how silent dehydration magnifies the risks of the morning even further, and why ignoring this invisible thirst can silently erode your strength from the inside out. Each morning is a crossroads. The smallest choices can either protect you or expose you. And the journey towards strength begins long before you take your first step. Most people wake up believing that a new day brings a clean slate. But few realize that, biologically, you don't wake up renewed, you wake up depleted. Throughout the night, your body continues its quiet labor, breathing, repairing tissues, circulating blood, filtering waste. Every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of dreaming draws upon your water reserves. Yet while you sleep, you don't drink. The result? By morning, your body is already running low, a silent dehydration you cannot see, taste, or feel immediately. And in seniors, this is even more treacherous. With age, the body's thirst mechanism blunts. You may not feel thirsty even when your cells are gasping for hydration. It's like the fire alarm being broken while smoke silently fills the house. I once met Mrs. Mary, a lively 76-year-old woman who loved gardening and volunteering. For years, she brushed off the headaches she often felt after waking, the dizziness when bending over, the fatigue that seemed to cloud her mornings. She chalked it up to normal aging, until one morning when she fainted while making her breakfast. At the hospital, the diagnosis was simple but devastating: mild dehydration combined with unstable blood pressure. Mrs. Mary's case shook me, not because it was rare, but because it was heartbreakingly common. Seniors often don't recognize dehydration because the body stops sending clear thirst signals. And the consequences accumulate in silence. Thicker blood strains the heart, sluggish circulation starves the brain, balance wavers, and tiny blood vessels in vital organs become stressed. Science is clear: even mild dehydration increases the risk of falls, impairs cognitive function, destabilizes blood pressure, and burdens the kidneys and heart. When the blood thickens, the heart must pump harder against greater resistance. For a younger person, the body compensates. But for seniors, whose cardiovascular systems are already less elastic, it's like asking an old engine to climb a steep hill without enough oil. Something will give eventually. Eastern philosophies have long honored the act of waking as a sacred moment of nourishment. Buddhist monks, for centuries, would never begin their day without first honoring the body's needs. Water, to them, was not just hydration, it was a ritual of gratitude, a way to acknowledge the temple that carries the soul through life's journey. Before prayer, before meditation, before even speaking a word, they would sip water mindfully, awakening their body from within. Modern science echoes this ancient wisdom. Hydrating immediately upon waking helps stabilize morning blood pressure, restores plasma volume, supports kidney function, and enhances mental clarity. It's not just about drinking water, it's about reversing the silent damage that accumulates night after night. And it's not hard. A simple glass of water kept on the bedside table can act as a silent guardian. When you open your eyes, before reaching for your phone, before sipping coffee, before scrolling through news that brings the world's chaos into your mind, honor your body first. A few sips of life's simplest gift can shift your entire internal chemistry from struggling to thriving. If plain water feels too boring, add a few drops of lemon to stimulate gentle digestive awakening. If drinking a full glass feels overwhelming, begin with small sips. The key is consistency, not volume. It's the daily ritual, not the occasional grand gesture, that preserves your vitality. I often tell my patients, hydration is like oiling the gears of a beautiful, aging machine. Ignore it, and the engine seizes. Respect it, and it hums with surprising strength even after decades. The story of Mrs. Mary has a happy ending. Once she made morning hydration a non-negotiable ritual, a simple glass of water before anything else. Her headaches disappeared, her balance improved, and the shadows over her mornings lifted. She often joked with me during follow-ups, "Doctor, who knew water was stronger than pills?" Perhaps you're thinking now, "But I don't feel thirsty when I wake up." And that's precisely the danger. Thirst is a late signal, a desperate SOS. By the time you feel it, your body has already been struggling for hours. The prevention, however, is beautifully simple. It costs nothing. It requires no prescription. It demands only your attention and your respect. As you prepare to change your mornings, remember, life's biggest protections often come in the smallest gestures. Hydrate before the world demands anything from you. Hydrate before you even demand anything from yourself. Now that you understand the silent hazard of dehydration, imagine combining that morning dryness with another mistake, one that millions make without realizing, by pouring acid into an already sensitive stomach. In the next part, we will explore why drinking coffee on an empty stomach can be the next domino in the chain of hidden dangers. And how a small, delicious change can protect your gut, your energy, and your spirit. The morning isn't just a beginning, it's a foundation. Let's make sure it's a strong one. There's a certain comfort woven into the first sip of morning coffee. The warm mug between your hands, the rich aroma curling into your senses, the quiet promise of energy awakening within you. For decades, countless people, myself included, have started their days with this small ritual, believing it a harmless indulgence, even a necessary one. But like many things that bring comfort, coffee carries hidden risks when misunderstood, and for seniors, these risks can accumulate into a silent, growing storm. I still remember Mr. John, a 75-year-old retired teacher who came to my clinic complaining of persistent stomach pain and heartburn that no medication seemed to cure. His mornings, he proudly explained, always began the same way: strong black coffee, straight from the pot, before anything else touched his lips. It had been his daily tradition since his 20s. In his mind, it was a badge of resilience, a ritual of discipline. But inside his body, that morning ritual was carving microscopic wounds across decades. When you wake up, your stomach has been empty for hours. Its protective lining, designed to shield it from its own acids, is thinned. Blood sugar levels are low. Digestive systems are sensitive, vulnerable, quietly waiting for nourishment to restart their engines. Pouring coffee, a strong stimulant and an acid producer, directly into this fragile environment is like setting a spark inside a dry forest. The surge of gastric acid unleashed by coffee attacks the vulnerable stomach walls, slowly eroding its defenses. At first, it's just mild discomfort. Then it becomes burning pain, acid reflux, ulcers, and over time, a significant risk to digestion, nutrient absorption, and overall vitality. Science now shows that drinking coffee on an empty stomach significantly raises cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, while simultaneously increasing stomach acid. In young people, the body often compensates quickly. In seniors, however, the repair mechanisms are slower, and the damage can deepen with every passing morning. When I explained all this to Mr. John, I saw a flash of resistance in his eyes, a flicker of defensiveness so many of us feel when our beloved habits are challenged. Change always feels like a personal affront to our identity. But he listened. He tried one simple adjustment: eating a small piece of whole grain toast, or a banana, or a handful of nuts before his coffee. Within weeks, his stomach pains vanished, his acid reflux receded, and he rediscovered a calmness in his mornings he hadn't felt in years. This tiny change did not mean giving up coffee. It meant protecting the body before asking it to perform. It meant acknowledging that energy fueled by destruction is not true energy, it is borrowed energy, destined to be repaid with interest. In Eastern traditions, especially among monks, the idea of feeding before stimulating is woven into their lifestyle. Before meditation, before chanting, before any intellectual exertion, they honor the body with simple, nourishing food. A piece of fruit. A handful of grains. A small bowl of rice. They recognize that true spiritual and physical resilience comes not from force, but from care, from steady, patient support. This principle is not about deprivation or asceticism. It is about wisdom. About building a foundation strong enough to sustain joy, clarity, and action without fear of collapse. When you eat something small before your coffee, even just a banana, a few almonds, a spoonful of yogurt, you give your stomach the protective cushion it needs to handle the acidity. You stabilize your blood sugar, support your adrenal glands, and maintain smoother energy throughout the morning. Over time, this simple ritual strengthens not just your digestion, but your mental clarity, your emotional resilience, and your capacity to meet each day with strength. I often tell my patients, the strongest tree is not the one that withstands the storm through brute force. It is the one whose roots are quietly, invisibly nourished every single day. Perhaps you've brushed off that mild heartburn after your morning coffee. Perhaps you've ignored the occasional chest tightness, the random bouts of stomach upset. But the body keeps the score. And small daily harms, like drops of water against stone, eventually shape the landscape of your health. Respecting your mornings, protecting your vulnerable moments, isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's a silent investment that will compound quietly over years into a treasure of independence and strength. If the first mistake was rising too fast, and the second was ignoring hydration, then pouring black coffee into an empty, fragile stomach is like building your day on unstable ground. You might stand tall at first. But in time, the cracks will show. Now that we've understood how the stomach pleads for protection each morning, we must turn our attention to another silent cry, the aching stiffness many feel in their joints and muscles, dismissed as just aging, but in truth, a signal that, if respected, can save a body from pain, falls, and fear. In the next part, we'll dive deep into why ignoring morning stiffness is a mistake many seniors make, and how you can turn those first tight, heavy steps into a powerful source of daily strength and resilience. Every morning gives us another chance to listen. Let's not miss the whispers our bodies are trying to send. Every morning, As the first light slips through the curtains and you stretch toward consciousness, your body speaks. Sometimes it speaks in gentle whispers, a slight tightness behind the knees, a mild stiffness in the lower back, a small hesitation in the shoulders. Other times, it speaks in louder tones, a heavy, reluctant feeling in the legs, a sharp reminder from the hips, a dull ache across the spine. But whether loud or soft, the message is the same. Wake carefully. Wake with respect. Sadly, many seniors mistake these messages for mere inconveniences, the inevitable price of aging. They push through. They swing their legs off the bed, rush to the bathroom, carry on with their morning rituals, pretending the stiffness is nothing more than a passing annoyance. But what they do not realize is that this early tightness is a quiet warning, a red flag fluttering gently before the storm. I remember Mrs. Margaret, a 79-year-old woman whose spirit was as lively as her garden. She prided herself on her independence. Every morning, despite the growing heaviness in her legs, she insisted on moving quickly, brushing aside the stiffness as if it were an enemy to be conquered by sheer will. Until one morning, her knee locked mid-step. Her balance betrayed her. She fell hard against the edge of her bed, fracturing her hip. What followed were long months of fear, dependence, and a slow erosion of the confidence she once wore like armor. The science behind her story is both simple and profound. During sleep, the body enters a state of profound stillness. Muscles relax. Circulation slows. Synovial fluid, the precious lubricant of the joints, settles. When you wake, your tissues are not ready for sudden movement. Your muscles are cool, your joints are dry, your blood flow is still gathering momentum. If you force movement too quickly, without honoring this vulnerable transition, you invite small tears, micro-injuries, strains that might not hurt immediately but weaken the structure day by day. Think of it like trying to start an old, beautiful car that has been resting all winter. Would you slam your foot on the gas the moment the engine coughs awake? Or would you warm it gently, giving oil time to circulate, letting the parts whisper back into life before demanding performance? Buddhist monks understood this intuitively. Their morning practices, slow stretches while still lying in bed, deep conscious breathing, small circles of the wrists and ankles, were not rituals of superstition. They were rituals of biological wisdom, finely tuned by centuries of watching the body's needs. They knew that rushing the transition from rest to action was not just disrespectful, it was dangerous. Modern studies confirm it. Seniors who incorporate gentle movement immediately upon waking experience significantly fewer falls, better joint health, improved neuromuscular coordination, and enhanced stability throughout the day. It is not about lengthy exercise routines or heroic feats of flexibility. It is about offering your body a few minutes of grace, and in return, receiving years of vitality. In my practice, I teach my patients a simple morning awakening sequence. Before even sitting up, they move their fingers and toes, flex their ankles gently, stretch their arms overhead like a slow sunrise stretching into the sky. Then, sitting at the edge of the bed, they rotate their shoulders, stretch their necks side to side, gently sway their torsos. This little ceremony of waking, lasting no more than 2 or 3 minutes, strengthens the body's communication lines, muscles, nerves, balance centers, preparing them for the day ahead. It is in these small, quiet minutes that the real battles for independence are won or lost. Ignoring morning stiffness is not bravery. It is blindness. It is mistaking the warning signs of the body for mere inconveniences, rather than understanding them as invitations to care. Mrs. Margaret's story could have ended differently. And so can yours. When you honor your body's rhythms instead of fighting them, you align yourself with the flow of life itself, not the brutal rush of mechanical living, but the wise, steady movement of longevity. And now, having explored how the body's tissues plead for patience at dawn, we must turn our attention to perhaps the most silent and insidious mistake of all, the one that starts not in the muscles or blood, but in the very way we carry ourselves. In the next part, we will uncover how poor posture upon waking, that small slouch, that downward gaze, steals strength, energy, and confidence without a sound. And how restoring dignity to your first movements of the day can reclaim not just your body, but your spirit. Each morning is a message. The question is whether we are willing to listen before it's too late. There is a subtle moment each morning that most people never notice, a tiny, seemingly insignificant instant that holds the power to shape the entire day ahead. It is the way we lift ourselves from the cocoon of sleep into the upright world. Most do it unconsciously. A hunched roll forward, shoulders collapsed, head drooping toward the ground, spine bowed by gravity and habit. It seems harmless. It feels natural. But over time, it quietly erodes the pillars of strength, balance, and vitality that sustain life's simplest freedoms. I remember Mrs. Helen, a spirited 81-year-old who loved tending her flowers and taking long walks with her grandchildren. But over the years, without realizing it, she had begun starting her mornings hunched over. First, there was a minor dizziness. Then a stumble she brushed off. Then the fall that left her unable to walk for months. The doctors treated the fractures, but what truly needed healing was far deeper, the way she had unknowingly surrendered her strength every single morning with her posture. The body is a remarkable machine, but it is also a mirror. When you collapse your posture upon waking, shoulders caving inward, chest sinking, gaze to the floor, you compress your lungs, limiting the oxygen that reaches your blood and brain. Less oxygen means less energy, slower reactions, more fatigue, and a fog that clouds decision-making. You compress your digestive organs, slowing the delicate dance of digestion, promoting bloating, gas, and constipation. You shift your center of gravity forward, destabilizing your gait, increasing your risk of falls, fractures, and debilitating injuries. But posture does more than affect your body. It shapes your mind. Studies show that slouched posture increases feelings of sadness, insecurity, and mental fatigue. In contrast, an upright, open stance boosts confidence, improves memory, and sharpens focus. Every time you rise with your body curled inward, you are silently telling your nervous system, be weak, be uncertain, be afraid. And over the months and years, the body, faithful servant that it is, obeys. Buddhist monks view posture as the physical embodiment of vital energy. To rise each day with an upright spine, aligned shoulders, and gaze forward is not vanity. It is a sacred declaration: I am here. I am alive. I honor the path I walk today. They understand that the body and mind are not separate, they are one continuous symphony. Move with dignity, and you will think with clarity. Breathe with fullness, and you will act with purpose. Correcting this seemingly small morning mistake does not require Herculean effort. It requires awareness. As you sit on the edge of the bed after waking, pause. Draw a deep breath into your belly. Stretch your spine tall as if reaching for the ceiling with the crown of your head. Pull your shoulders gently back. Keep your chin parallel to the floor, not drooping toward your chest. Place your feet firmly on the ground, feeling the earth beneath you. And when you take your first steps, do so consciously, not rushing, not dragging, but moving with the steady grace of someone who knows the preciousness of balance. This practice, taking less than a minute, sets the tone for your entire physiology. It tells your lungs to breathe deeply, your muscles to activate properly, your brain to receive oxygen and think clearly, your heart to beat with calm strength. It reminds your body that it is not weak, not fragile, but still a vessel of resilience and dignity. I often tell my patients, your posture is your first prayer of the day. Make it a prayer of gratitude, not surrender. Mrs. Helen, after her long recovery, made posture her sacred morning ritual. Every day, before standing, she would straighten her spine, lift her chest, and smile softly to herself. Over time, her balance returned. Her confidence bloomed anew. And though she moved a little slower, she moved with a quiet pride that no fall could ever take away again. Perhaps you have never thought much about how you rise in the morning. Perhaps it seemed like a small, inconsequential detail. But the truth is, small hinges swing big doors. And the way you treat your body in the first fragile minutes after sleep determines the strength, balance, and clarity you carry through the hours ahead. Now that we have explored the 5 greatest morning mistakes, rushing to rise, ignoring hydration, drinking coffee on an empty stomach, dismissing stiffness, and collapsing posture, you might be wondering, if I have been doing these things wrong for years, is it already too late? In the next part, we will uncover the silent danger of believing time has not yet caught up to us, and the extraordinary truth that small changes made today can still rewrite the future in ways more powerful than you ever imagined. The body is forgiving. The body is patient. It waits for us to listen. And the morning is where that conversation begins. Human nature has a curious blind spot. We are quick to notice sudden pain, swift crises, sharp declines. But we are remarkably poor at recognizing slow decay, the gentle eroding of strength that happens drop by drop, like rain carving a canyon over centuries. It is this blindness that makes the mistakes we have explored so dangerous. Not because they cause immediate collapse, but because they work in silence, weaving tiny fractures into the foundations of our vitality until one day, without warning, the whole structure gives way. I often hear patients say, "But I've always done it this way, and nothing bad has happened." And I understand. Truly, I do. Our brains are wired for immediate consequences. We trust what we can see, what we can feel. If a bad habit doesn't hurt today, or tomorrow, or next week, we are lulled into the comforting illusion that it never will. But the body does not shout its protests. It whispers them, quietly, through small imbalances, tiny shifts, imperceptible at first. And by the time the shouting begins, the fall, the hospitalization, the fracture, the heart attack, it feels like it came out of nowhere. But nothing comes out of nowhere. Time is a silent architect. Every morning that we rush out of bed without respect, every day we ignore hydration, every cup of coffee poured into an empty, vulnerable stomach, every stiff step taken without patience, every stooped, collapsed rising, they do not pass without leaving a mark. They accumulate. They weave themselves into the fabric of our being, like invisible threads tightening around the possibility of freedom, until the day we wake up and realize that independence, once so effortless, now hangs by a thread. In Eastern wisdom, there is a saying, the river does not carve the rock through force, but through persistence. So too do our habits carve our future. Every small choice, repeated quietly over days, months, years, shapes the terrain of our bodies, our minds, our spirits. But here lies the extraordinary hope. If small neglects can build weakness, then small acts of care can build strength. If tiny cracks can be formed unnoticed, then tiny repairs can be made, quietly, patiently, with just as much power. I remember one patient, Mr. Samuel, 82 years old, who came to me after a minor fall that, thankfully, left him only bruised. When we spoke, he was angry, not at anyone, but at himself. I thought I was invincible, he said. I thought because nothing bad had happened yet, nothing ever would. We worked together, starting with the smallest rituals. Rising slowly. Drinking water before coffee. Stretching before standing. Sitting tall before walking. At first, the changes felt almost laughably simple. Too small to matter. But within months, Samuel was stronger, steadier, sharper. He told me once, with tears in his eyes, "Doctor, I feel like I got a part of my life back that I didn't even realize I was losing." That is the silent miracle of small changes. They do not announce themselves with fanfare. They do not transform you overnight. They work the way life itself works, patiently, invisibly, relentlessly. If you have spent years ignoring these subtle risks, forgive yourself. You are human. You trusted the absence of pain as a sign of safety. But now you know better. And knowing better is the first, most powerful step toward doing better. The body is a bridge between the past and the future. It carries the memory of every choice we have made. But it also holds the potential for renewal, for regeneration, for rewriting the story. What matters is not the years that have passed. What matters is the choice you make today, and tomorrow, and the day after that. What matters is the gentle, stubborn commitment to plant seeds of strength even when you cannot yet see the harvest. The morning is not just a beginning. It is a battleground, quiet, invisible, sacred, where the future is decided not in grand victories, but in small, unseen acts of care. And so now, standing at this crossroads of awareness, the question is simple: which path will you choose? Will you continue to move through your mornings blind to the silent shaping of your destiny? Or will you awaken, truly awaken, to the extraordinary power you hold in your hands, your feet, your breath, your spine, your cup of water, your simple stretch, your first upright step? The body is listening. The future is waiting. And it begins, not someday, but right now. In the next and final part, we will gather all that we have learned and understand how these small rituals, practiced daily, do more than preserve the body, they honor the very spirit of life itself. Because aging, when embraced with wisdom, is not a story of decline. It is a story of silent strength, of invisible victories, and of the sacred joy of living fully, every single morning. If anything in today's journey touched your heart, know that it was not by accident. The body, the spirit, and life itself are always offering us gentle reminders. We only need to listen. If you found value here, I invite you to honor this journey by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it with someone you care about. Together, we can build a future where aging is not feared, but celebrated, a future full of vitality, resilience, and quiet strength. Let's keep walking this path together, one mindful morning at a time.